Hi, welcome back to the Launch Point Leader Podcast. My name's Lori.
This is Beau.
We're so excited to be back with you guys for another week to share a story a listener has written in. So we're just going to get right into it. Today it says, Dear Launch Point, you had an episode recently about how to develop your personal community, but I'm struggling to get plugged in a different way. Part of my job is to build relationships with our community. I've had this job for a couple of months, and it feels like there's an invisible barrier I can't quite break through. I've attended some events, introduced myself, and tried to engage, but I still feel like an outsider. I'm not from the area, and while we're in a growing part of the state, it's still considered a very small town. I want to make meaningful connections, not just show up and shake hands. How can I establish trust and credibility with these organizations? What's the best way to integrate myself into the community without feeling like I'm forcing it? Thanks for thinking and speaking on this. Sincerely, Building Bridges.
So I think they're referring probably to building your personal board of directors and that kind of thing.
I
right?
think
on what we're talking about connecting. So this is different. So they're speaking more, it sounds like, of a community outreach and growing your business through community connections.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I've got a couple of thoughts. I actually am going to defer to you a good bit on this because I think you're actually really, really good at doing things like this. Mm-hmm. So I'll give you what my thoughts are on the strategic system approach, right? And then you can give some more real life examples. But I would say whenever you're trying to connect and kind of make these relationships work, I'd ask you to think about a couple of questions that involve the letter P. Okay. So
we love
what's your purpose? What is the purpose for you going to this meeting, to this event, whatever? Who are the players? And sometimes you might not know this until you've been to one of these, but most of these networking things are they're scheduled. They are routine, and they are more than just one time. So what's your purpose? Who are the players, and what's your plan? And when you think about it that way, I would think that it would give you a little bit of clarity and context, because what I hear this user or this listener asking in the question is they're not necessarily looking to make friends as much as they're looking to make business and community connections.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay to go in with a system or a strategy to try to figure this out. Once you're in there and have that, I don't know that I can put a P word on it, but I would just say play interested. Like, play interested in what the other people are saying. So instead of going in and trying to promote yourself, play interested in what everybody else is doing. Ask questions more than you talk about what it is that you do and what you bring to the table, but especially early on. Now, when you're established, I think that dynamic changes a bit, but early on, people love to talk about themselves more than anything else.
Yeah.
So when you say, hey, tell me about what you do, and tell me about your family, and how long have you been in this town, how long have you been in this industry? Oh man, that's really interesting. And you might be bored out of your mind, but as long as you can do that, that just gets you in the door as, oh, well, they're a nice individual, right? So those would kind of be my first couple of ideas. And the last thing I would say is write a personal note. After you're done with the event and you've asked the right questions, you've found out probably at least a handful of folks, where they work, what they do. So take some time in the coming days and write them in a handwritten note, drop it in the mail, snail mail, not email. Drop it in the mail. The U.S. Postal Service will deliver it to you most of the time. And I think it's just would make a really big impression as you're trying to break into this community and this group, that you actually took the time to ask them about them, go to the event, write a personal note to follow up on. I just think that's a formula for me that I have to use.
That's great. Personal note, by the way, is also another P, so you can add that in there. You've nailed it.
I tried, Lori. I really tried. Purpose, players, plan, play, and then personal note.
That's good.
So, or pretend instead of play. Pretend to be interested, but you might be interested.
I think, you are genuinely interested to go into it. I think, I don't know. Jury's out on the P on that one. But
okay, we'll come back and work on that. We'll workshop that one.
Sure.
Yeah. So after hearing that, your experiences with this, I mean, you're quite involved, and I think a lot of different things throughout the community that we're in. You just landed in a new community.
Just moved and
are
I'm
like,
trying to start this process from scratch.
There.
Yeah.
So kind of give the listeners some thoughts that you have.
Yeah. So I think for me reading through this, it really is a place I felt in myself about a year and a half ago. And then now again today, like we said, I've moved recently to a new town, new state. And so trying to work through all of that from the get-go. And
do you say Roll Tide yet?
No, we're an Auburn family, so we'll never
a tiger.
Actually say that, yes.
So you just changed your shade of orange from Tennessee orange to Auburn orange. Mm-hmm. I think that'll be more agreeable to the listeners.
Sure,
That's good.
Absolutely.
That's good.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But I considered my first 5-6 years into my job, I called it like I was in a bubble. You know, my networking stopped at the office, stopped in the building that I was in, and that was the community I built. I actually moved from Florida to Tennessee for a job and knew nobody. And for the first 5-6 years, I think that was great. But I started to realize, you know, as we started to build up Launch Point a little bit, even before the name came up, the idea, I just started to realize, like, I didn't really have much going on beyond those walls. And so I started to go to some different events in town and go to the chamber events and get involved in some different organizations in town that I felt like I personally aligned with. And you do feel this at first, but I think it's important to remember everyone's feeling that way. And so what I would do for myself, I didn't have like an alliteration I would do, but I would sit in the car and say, okay, you can leave after you have talked to and have like the information on this many people. And sometimes
it's like a pump you up session.
Yes. Yeah, sometimes it was 2 people. Sometimes it was like 5 or 6. Like I'm going to go and I'm really going to invest. But if you want to leave after you have the names and business cards and like connection of 2 people, you can.
Yeah.
Now, normally what happens is you want to stay, you know, one person leads to another and conversation can start flowing. But it sounds like you're already going to these events and doing the things. You just feel like there's some kind of barrier and you feel like an outsider.
So what is it you think, because I want to draw on your personal experience, because again, you've done a really solid job at this and probably more recently than I have.
Yeah.
So, you know, you don't just go to the events, and I know you're hyping yourself up in the car and it's like 1 or 2 people, right? But I mean, you've won an award at one of these, or a recognition at one of these organizations, like after your first year of being there.
Yeah.
So what do you think that you did that helped you to continue to make personal connections and expand your network in a way that you were recognized amongst your peers, in a large group of peers? I mean, you were picked out. So
yeah, I think what really set it apart and made it is my intention was, once I started going and exactly what you said, like learning the events and kind of the players and the structure.
Yeah.
I've never felt a part of something until I helped contributed to it.
Ooh, okay.
And I think that goes for a lot of people. You want a sense of purpose when you attend something, and just introducing yourself sometimes isn't. And so a lot of these organizations have committees you can join and other side, like smaller side meetings you can go to. So with this group in particular, I joined a few of the committees on things that I cared about in the community, on community service. There was a group on professional development, which is our life, right? So I was like, that's an easy no-brainer for me. I'm going to get involved in that group. And that's when things started to change. And I went from someone people a little bit recognize from these events to, oh, Lori helped make today happen. And I think it just depends on your level of involvement, what you can do. But it sounds like building bridges, this is part of your job. And so I think look for those things that go from, I'm going to this business before hours, to, oh, this group that aligns with my values. I'm going to go work with other leaders in the community, and we're going to go do community service for an hour this afternoon. We're going to go do that. So I think it's when I got involved is when I got to go past the surface and really start to build relationships and have great friendships.
Yeah. So I hear you say, so thinking about the P's, right?
Yes, right.
So don't just participate, be a player.
Yeah.
Right. And I think you made that very clear with this. And it's almost like if you go to church, you know, it's hard when you go to a larger church. It's like, I don't know anybody. Well, if you get involved, I promise you're going to start knowing a lot more people. So you got involved. You started connecting more with people that way, and they started recognizing, oh, she's actually here to serve a purpose,
right,
and on purpose, and she's not just here to participate and kind of be a somebody that just consumes. She wants to create for other people. So that's really good insights there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's when I had to I could get away from the counting down in my car.
Yeah.
And the hyping yourself up, because I'm
so
an
to be clear, do you continue to count down and like hype in the car, or are you a little bit, does it get better?
It does get better.
Okay.
But sometimes it depends on the day, and I think that's okay. Sometimes when you're an introvert, or even sometimes, you know what? I hear they sometimes also get tired of people. I don't know. As an introvert, I can only speak for myself, but I think there's just times where even when I do know what's going to happen, it's still like, once the event starts, I'm great. Totally happens. It's like right before I'm like, okay, I just need to do the first step. But really where I think building bridges is it sounds like that barrier. I really do think it's that involvement piece that's going to help you feel. Yeah. And give yourself the permission of time. It's if these people have known each other for all of their careers.
Great point.
You're not going to be at that level on day one. And, it kind of stinks sometimes, but it's that time put in and that involvement of effort you're going to give that's going to give you the best results. They all
started somewhere too, right? They weren't always there. I think the only other things I would add is just whatever profession you're in, be excellent in that profession, so that when you bring your reputation into that setting, there isn't a thought that it's like, oh boy, or did you hear about?
Yeah.
But like, be really professional. Do your work with excellence so that when you come into that group, you're bringing excellence into the group.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only other thing that you didn't say, and maybe this was part of your participation piece, was I think you've done a really good job at picking out events where you can present, is another P word, where you can present and not just be a part of the crowd, but you can actually get up in front of this group of people and say, hey, this is what I'm about. This is what I do. And I am so glad to be here. And you're not just a part of that crowd in the background. You really do a good job of taking the opportunities as they're given, and then throwing me up there sometimes as well.
That's right. Whenever I get the opportunity, get you up there. I didn't pick this question for this to be like an encouragement session for me, but I really appreciate it. Wow.
Hey, listen, you do a great job
building
with
bridges.
it.
This is what will happen for you when you get out there and get involved.
That's exactly right.
People will say the same stuff about you.
I think some good advice though. I think you have a lot of great context with it, and maybe they like the systematic approach, but they also got your context with everything, so that's really good.
Yeah, and so just reminding everyone of the P's.
Let's go.
You've got to have your overall purpose.
Got it.
Learn the players.
Yeah.
Learn how to be a player.
Yeah.
In a intentional way, not like a player coming into play.
Not player. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
A player that will participate and have a plan. Know what you're doing when you're going in. And then I think another thing we didn't touch on past the beginning is that personal note piece is such a good touch at the end too. Like that's something I've never done that I kind of sparked up on that and was like, I should do that. I
still write handwritten notes on an annual basis. Some people get them a couple of times a year. Some people get them once a year. And I tend to do it in batches, right? I usually the beginning, middle, and end of year for community folks. But I still have people text me, call me, email me, or stop me at events and just thank me for taking my time to write them a note. And honestly, it doesn't take much time, but it's really just thanking them in that note for what they do in the community, for how they serve, how they make us better, and just like for them to be recognized for it has honestly been one of the easiest wins, I think, when you're trying to become a part of something that you can do. And it really doesn't cost you much. I think 37 cents for a stamp. Is it 40? I don't know. Hopefully you bought the forever stamps a long time ago.
Fingers crossed, please.
Yeah. But I think that's a really easy one.
That's really good.
It's a little tedious, but it makes an impression.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. Just go get it. I mean, I understand I understand how this feels. I think Lori obviously
I'm back in it, actually.
Yeah. So it's nothing that we don't all experience. You just kind of get out there and do it.
Yeah.
And hype yourself up, and maybe call Lori as you're getting ready to go to this event.
That's right.
And just like let Lori hype you up. For you.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. You can always, if you're in your car hyping yourself up before a meeting or just have any other issue you want to write in, you can write us in and we will respond back to you.
And if you're hyping yourself up, listen to this podcast
That's
again.
right.
Done.
That's right.
Done. We solved it. You're welcome.
You're good to go.
Yeah,
Bridge
you're good.
built, honestly. Building bridges. Thank you so much for writing in. If you or someone else out there wants to write in with any scenario you've got going on or just something that you just want to hear more about that we've talked about in the past, we would love to write us in. You can always write us in. Go to our website. We've got a brand new page on there, launchpointleader.com/podcast. You can write us directly on there, and you can find us on all the socials. Have a great day.
See you soon.